at the moon in the sky. This shouldn't come as a surprise, but I can't sleep. War in my mind, I'm trying to fight a war in my mind. I don't know who's the winner tonight, but it ain't me. Where are you now? When my fears are worse than ever, when the night goes on forever, when I'm losing track of time. Where are you now? When I need you more than ever, when I ain't got together, let me know just where you hide. Where are you now? Why aren't you holding me in the midnight hour, saying I'll be fine? Where are you now? Why aren't you here with me, here to calm me down in the midnight hour?
Monday morning blues. I open my eyes and I'm greeted by a cute little smile. The world is new with you by my side. Everything is beautiful. Tuesday afternoon, I'm calling you home just to hear your voice on the phone. I think of you and I'm not alone. You are everything under the sky so blue. I found my piece of heaven, spending my days with you. You are my piece of heaven. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, life is a bliss. Waking up with you in my arms, I've got it all, and nothing's amiss. Everything is beautiful. Sunday morning snooze with breakfast in bed, and I listen to the song in my head. It sings of you and the things that you do, 'cause you're everything under the sky so blue. I found my piece of heaven.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Shallow Reef series. As you can see, quite a lot has changed since episode 2, with the biggest and most obvious change being the light. However, I've also been collecting quite a few different beginner-friendly corals, which we'll go over in a little more detail shortly. But for now, here's a quick look at the current coral map. Starting with the biggest change, I've upgraded to the new Skylight Hyperbar RL60, and it's an absolute beast of a light. The minimalistic design fits the tank perfectly, and with summer just around the corner, it's freed up a fair bit of space at the back of the tank for a cooling system. This is a system I've set up myself. It's a DIY one, and I'm going to put a video out for it shortly, so keep an eye out for that one as well. Outside of the minimalistic look, the app is also super easy to use and has a massive selection of color options and intensities. Personally, I prefer this gradient style layout over the fluval individual color sliders. That system felt a little bit overwhelming, and trying to balance everything out with the perfect amount of each color was kind of frustrating. As well as a full range of color options, you can set up a full lighting schedule with ramp up and ramp down times, and incorporate any of the colors that you want to use within each of these periods. But the most useful feature of all is that it actually shows you some par guide values on the screen as well. It's not going to be perfect, but it does help you get a lot closer if you don't have a par meter. That was one of the biggest issues I struggled with the Fluval app. It was basically all just guesswork. So moving on to some of the other stuff that's happened in this tank. So the first thing that I added recently has been my pulsing xenia. This is one of my favorite corals. A lot of people don't like it, but I think it's really cool the way it interacts. And the guy I got this off locally here, he also threw in a leather coral. So this one's quite cool as well. So after just a typical bit of temperature acclimation, I ended up putting them straight in the tank. Normally I would do some coral dips, but I have heard that pulsing xenia doesn't dip very well sometimes, so I didn't want to risk it. For some reason it's quite hard to come by here. I don't know why, it's quite a common coral. So I just put it straight into the tank after a temperature acclimation, and I glued it straight onto a small piece of rock just to make sure that it has its own island and it's not gonna go everywhere and basically take over my tank. The next coral I got is a Sinularia. I believe this one is fluoro green, and I made sure to dip this one too because I just had a weird vibe about it. It's doing really well, but as you can see here, there was a lot of critters on it. So some of these little guys are okay. There was a lot of other worms and stuff that came off it as well. So a long dip definitely got rid of most of those, and you can see in the little container here just how much life there was on this single piece of coral. Here's a better look of it from the top now. It's been in the tank for a couple of weeks at this stage. It's looking really healthy and really nice. The original green star polyp that I got had a bit of a weird phase. It went to sleep or went dormant for a couple of weeks. I actually thought it might have died, but then just semi-recently it's popped back out and it's looking really good. If anyone knows exactly what type this is, let me know because I'm not 100% sure. It's not a common one. It's got very small polyps, but it is growing quite fast as well. It's not all good news though. This is another one of my favorite corals here. I got this one quite early on, and it is a candy cane. For whatever reason, 2 of the heads are slowly starting to die off. The third one is kind of okay at the moment, but I don't think it's faring too well either. Not the best news, but it does happen. All of the snails are doing pretty well so far. I've got quite a lot of new ones in the tank now, which I'll cover a little bit further on in the video. I was a little bit worried the hermit crabs were going to annoy them, but so far so good. That hasn't been the case. My 2 little clownfish are also doing well. They're always trying to photobomb everything, so it is kind of hard to film stuff sometimes with these guys jumping straight into all the footage. Another really nice coral that I picked up here semi-recently, and surprisingly it grows faster than anything I've seen, is this Rhodactis mushroom. I think it's an Indonesian variety. I'll leave the name up on the screen anyway, because it is really cool and you might want to get some yourself. It seems to grow really easy and really fast, so again, it's on its own island just to make sure it doesn't take over the tank. I'm not 100% sure either, but it looks like my clowns might be trying to host it. It is still small, they do hang around it a little bit, so we'll see what happens. I've also added quite a few extra spare shells for my hermit crabs. They're starting to grow quite quickly, so I'm adding bigger shells for them, some smaller ones for some future hermit crabs I might add. But I dropped this old nerite snail in quite recently. It climbed out of one of my freshwater tanks and died on the ground. I think it was left on the floor for a couple of weeks, so it didn't make it. So I've just dropped it in here, and interestingly enough, it didn't take too long for the hermit crabs to come in and pull the remaining snail out of the shell and basically became food. And eventually, quite a big snail, but it will become a shell for one of these hermit crabs as they start to get bigger. It's actually really cool to see him just pulling out the old snail and eating it. Old Finnegan the fire shrimp did try to, but the hermit crab chased him away pretty quickly. That's his little cave there, and he almost never comes out of it. So the biggest addition to this tank so far, and kind of a little bit different to what I was planning. I had planned to probably do some sort of a mushroom garden, but that looks like we're going to have a half mushroom garden and half a zoa garden. So the reason for that is I found a seller here who was selling a ton of different kinds of zoas, and I got a really good deal. So I think I picked up about 9 different types here, as well as a handful of snails and a really cool bristle star. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. That was free, so the snails and the bristle star were free, and they came with the zoas. So I'll leave a list of all the different ones that I have on the screen here. I'm not 100% sure which is what just yet. There's so many different types, and I can't pin a name to each of them. They are really cool. The only problem I have at the moment is that I don't have a orange lens filter, so a lot of this footage is going to be coming out blue. If I adjust things in Davinci, I might be able to make it look a little bit closer to what the actual color renditions are, but it's still not going to be showing as good as this light can actually output the colors. Hopefully in some future videos I'll have some orange lens filters and you'll be able to see things a lot better with some more accurate colors. So here's just a quick look at the zoas that I've got. As you can see, there's quite a few different types. They've all settled in quite well, though depending on when I go and check on the tank, some of them aren't fully open yet, so this is probably the best shot I've got so far. So here's one final look at the tank so far from above, from left to right. It's been a while since I've cleaned anything, but it's still looking pretty good. You'll see the macroalgae at the back of the tank. I still haven't decided 100% what I'm going to do with that yet, though it has been really good at keeping my nitrates really low. As you can see, most of the corals are on the left side of the tank at the moment, which is in the kind of optimal place for the flow. So if you do have any suggestions for some soft corals that like really high flow, I can start placing those on the right hand side. because it is quite strong flow there.
Under the sky.